The air hung heavy with the scent of disinfectant, a sterile counterpoint to the heart-wrenching whimpers echoing from the surgery recovery room at Bark's animal shelter in Baltimore. Misha, a 10-week-old pit bull mix with eyes wide with fear and pain, trembled on her little bed. Her tiny body, still recovering from the crucial surgery to repair a broken leg, shook with each whimper. The staff at Bark's, accustomed to the sounds of animals in need, nevertheless felt a collective pang of worry. This was different. This was a deep, soul-shaking distress that transcended physical pain. Sophia, a veterinary technician with a heart as big as the city itself, rushed to Misha's side. She knew instinctively that this little one needed more than just medication. This was a plea for comfort, for reassurance, for a hand to hold in the darkness. Gently, Sophia lifted Misha, cradling her close to her chest, feeling the tiny heart thrumming against her own. "It's okay, little one," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the fluorescent lights. "You're safe now. We're here for you." Sophia, known for her calming presence and her way with even the most frightened animals, began her work. She stroked Misha's soft fur, her touch as light as a feather, yet firm enough to ground the little puppy in the moment. With each gentle stroke, she poured her love and compassion into Misha, hoping to create a bridge of trust across the chasm of fear. Misha, initially resistant, slowly began to yield to Sophia's touch. Her whimpers softened, replaced by tiny shuddering breaths. Her eyes, though still filled with uncertainty, began to lose their frantic edge. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Sophia knew that Misha's journey to recovery was just beginning. The road ahead would be long, paved with patience, understanding, and an abundance of love. But in this moment, as she felt Misha's tiny body relax against her own, Sophia felt a surge of hope. This little fighter had a spirit that refused to be broken. The arrival of Dr. Dennis Moses, Barks' head veterinarian and a man known for his unwavering dedication to his patients, brought a fresh wave of concern. Dennis, with his calm demeanor and gentle hands, had a way of putting both animals and humans at ease. He knelt beside Sophia and Misha, his brow furrowed with concern as he listened to Misha's shallow breaths. "She's terrified," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "She's not just in pain. There's something more." His eyes, filled with a wisdom earned through years of caring for creatures great and small, met Sophia's. "We need to figure out what's frightening her so badly." Dennis, ever the pragmatist, began by checking Misha's vitals, his touch reassuringly gentle. He spoke to her softly, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate with something deep within Misha. Slowly, he began to piece together the puzzle of her distress. Misha's broken leg was just the tip of the iceberg. Her fear, he realized, ran much deeper. This little dog had a story to tell, a story etched in the language of fear and pain. Just when hope seemed to dwindle, a ray of light walked through the doors of Bark's animal shelter. It was Mrs. Martha, a kind-hearted elderly woman known for her love of animals. She had found Misha, abandoned and injured, near her house a few days ago. Her heart ached for the tiny creature, and she'd been calling the shelter every day for updates. "How is she?" Mrs. Martha asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of concern and affection. Her eyes scanned the recovery room, finally landing on Misha, nestled in Sophia's arms. A wave of relief washed over her face. As soon as Misha heard Mrs. Martha's voice, a subtle shift occurred in her demeanor. Her whimpers ceased, replaced by a soft whine, almost a sound of recognition. Her tail, which had been tucked between her legs, gave a tentative thump against the blanket. It was the first sign of hope that the staff had witnessed since her surgery. Shadows of the past. With Mrs. Martha present, Misha's story began to unfold. She had been found abandoned in a dumpster, her leg broken, her spirit crushed. The trauma of being discarded, coupled with the physical pain, had left an indelible mark on her young psyche. The world, which should have been a place of exploration and joy, had become a source of terror. She was so scared, Mrs. Martha explained, her voice thick with emotion. She wouldn't let me near her at first, but I could see the fear in her eyes. I knew I had to help her. Dennis listened intently, nodding in understanding. Misha's behavior, so baffling at first, now made tragic sense. This wasn't just post-operative pain. This was a deep-seated fear, a terror that had taken root in her very being. The challenge, Dennis knew, would be to convince Misha that the world wasn't always a cruel and unforgiving place, that there were people like Mrs. Martha, Sophia, and himself who would dedicate themselves to her well-being, healing together. A team effort, under Dennis's watchful eye and with Mrs. Martha's unwavering support, a plan began to take shape. They would shower Misha with love and affection, creating a safe haven where she could begin to heal. Mrs. Martha, despite her age, became a regular fixture at the shelter. She would sit for hours by Misha's side, speaking to her in soothing tones, reading her stories, and singing her songs. Dennis, too, went above and beyond the call of duty. He would visit Misha during his lunch breaks, bringing her special treats and toys. He even brought in his own dog, a gentle giant named Bruno, to befriend her. Slowly but surely, Misha began to respond. The trembling subsided, replaced by a tentative curiosity. She began to wag her tail when she saw Mrs. Martha or Dennis. She even allowed Sophia to pick her up without shrinking away in fear. The power of play. Misha's transformation. One afternoon, as Dennis was playing fetch with Bruno in the shelter yard, he noticed Misha watching from her kennel, her tail wagging furiously. He tossed a squeaky toy towards her, holding his breath. To his surprise, Misha took a hesitant step forward, then another, her tail wagging even harder. She sniffed the toy cautiously, then picked it up in her mouth and tossed it in the air. That day marked a turning point in Misha's recovery. Play, the universal language of joy and abandon, became her therapy. She would chase after squeaky toys with an almost desperate enthusiasm, as if to make up for lost time. She would roll around in the grass with Bruno, her tiny body a blur of ecstatic motion. Dennis watched her transformation with a mixture of awe and satisfaction. Love, he realized, was the most powerful medicine of all. It had the ability to heal not just physical wounds, but also the invisible scars etched on the soul. A forever home. Dennis opens his heart. As the days turned into weeks, Misha's spirit continued to soar. She had blossomed into a playful, affectionate puppy, full of life and mischief. Her past trauma, though never forgotten, no longer defined her. She had learned to trust again, to love again, to be a dog again. Dennis, who had witnessed Misha's journey firsthand, found himself increasingly drawn to her indomitable spirit. He had grown quite attached to the brave little pup, and he knew in his heart that he couldn't bear to see her go to just any home. One evening, as he was locking up the shelter, he made a decision. He would adopt Misha himself. He knew it would mean rearranging his life, making adjustments to his routine. But he didn't hesitate. Misha had stolen his heart, just as she had stolen the hearts of everyone at Barks. She deserved a loving forever home, and he was determined to give her that. Reflections on resilience. Misha's journey, our lessons. Misha's story is a testament to the resilience of animals. Despite the horrors she had endured, she had never given up on love. Her spirit, though battered, had never been broken. She had taught everyone at Barks a valuable lesson, that even in the darkest of times, hope can flourish. Her story also highlights the power of compassion. Without the love and dedication of Sophia, Dennis, Mrs. Martha, and the entire staff at Barks, Misha's outcome might have been very different. They had shown her that the world wasn't all bad, that there were people who cared, who would fight for her, who would love her unconditionally. Misha's journey serves as a powerful reminder that every animal deserves a chance at happiness, no matter their past. It is a call to action for all of us to open our hearts and homes to animals in need, to offer them the second chance they so desperately deserve. A call to action. Open your heart. Change a life. Misha's story is just one of countless stories of animal rescue and rehabilitation that unfold every day in shelters around the world. These animals, often discarded and forgotten, carry with them the weight of past trauma, the scars of neglect and abuse. Yet, beneath the surface, their spirits remain unbroken, their capacity for love undimmed. Each one of us has the power to make a difference in the life of an animal like Misha. By opening our hearts and homes to these deserving creatures, we can offer them the chance to experience the love and security they crave. We can help them heal, to trust, to love again. Consider visiting your local animal shelter today. Meet the animals. Listen to their stories. You might just find that you have room in your heart and your home for one more. And in doing so, you might just change a life, both theirs and yours.